Good evening. 7 o'clock. I'd like to call the Tuesday, February 24th, 2015 Planning Commission meeting to order. If everyone will please rise with me and state the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll start with roll call on my left.
Austin here.
Limer here.
Lavella here. Mater here.
Kimsey here.
Barber here. Gilmore here. Quorum is present. Get into the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda have been distributed to each member of the Planning Commission for study. These items are considered to be routine and will be enacted upon by one motion with no separate discussion. If separate discussion is desired on an item from either the Planning Commission or from the floor, that item may be removed from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda. Is there any item any member of the commission would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Any item any member of the public would like to have removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion made by Barber with a second by Gilmore to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Moving on to new business item number 1. PDP-14-02, consider and hold a public hearing regarding a revised preliminary development plan for a 4-acre portion of Waverly Point zoned RP3 Planned Garden Apartment District and located generally north and west of the intersection of North Pear Street and West Santa Fe Street, submitted by Judd Clausen of Phelps Engineering on behalf of Ken Rogler of Waverly 175 LLC, property owner of record. We have a staff presentation this evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. Travis Holtz, Planning Technician. As stated, you have before you a revised preliminary development plan for a portion of the Waverly Point subdivision. Back in 2007, this entire area that you see included within this frame was approved with a preliminary development plan by the Planning Commission for a future development of commercial uses there zoned in the CP2 area, multifamily uses in the RP3 areas, and then single-family uses in the R1 areas shown here. This is located at the Waverly Road and Santa Fe intersection to the northeast. It would be corner of that intersection. What you have before you tonight is highlighted there in those yellow dashed lines is for just a revised, that specific portion, a revised development plan for that 4-acre portion that had previously again been approved, and that is for the future development of 7 additional multifamily attached buildings. To kind of give a little background and history on the entire site, this is the development plan that was approved back in 2007. A number of the areas in what you're seeing here have since been sold off into separate ownership from what was originally owned completely by Ken Rogler of Waverly 175 LLC. These areas here highlighted are currently owned by the school district. This area is owned by a private entity for the potential of bringing in some commercial uses. And then this portion is owned, actually received a approval of a site plan for the First Light Community Church. The rest of the area is still maintained in ownership by the applicant, and most of which has been approved previously, and much of that has been developed with single-family homes, as you currently see. Why this is important is because moving forward, some of the separate areas that are now under separate ownership would still be required to meet the preliminary development plan concept unless applications were separately submitted and approved for a new development plan. So what the applicant has brought forward to us is to do just that for the remainder of the portion of that development concept that is still within their ownership. That is shown here on the left is, again, what was approved, and then on the right, what is proposed. It's a little bit difficult to see, but this image on the right, the portion that is actually still remained unplatted and undeveloped is highlighted there in a more of a bolded line, and includes those 7 multifamily buildings shown. Kind of comparing the two from one another to show what is being revised, what the applicant has submitted. A couple of different things I want to bring your attention to. In general, the concept is very much the same. It is still intended to be developed for multifamily buildings. They will, however, be on separate lots. So it was previously assumed, as shown in the plan on the left, which was approved, that they would be, that the buildings, all of the buildings would be under one single ownership. The applicant has since explained to us that each of the units will be divided by property lines into each individual lots, creating separate ownership of the building, the unit itself, not the building, the unit itself and some of the land surrounding that area. So dividing this area into separate lots has created the need to provide this revised preliminary development plan to you for consideration of some of the variations that I'll go over here in a minute. But a couple of other items. There will be 7 less units overall in the development concept. The applicant has provided an additional 20 feet of right-of-way from what was originally approved. That's for the future improvements of 175th Street that will need to happen, not now with this application, but later on as additional growth and development occur in order to provide the appropriate road for the capacity needed and so forth. So they have granted that as part of an easement in addition to what was originally approved. Because of that, they had to shift up the configuration a little bit. Again, it's kind of hard to tell, but the cul-de-sac of Shawnee Street, or what was originally approved as Road B, is basically squished up to the north and rotates in a little bit. So some of the buildings are a little closer together than what was originally proposed, and the applicant has provided the details and the information that I've included in the staff report to highlight some of the key differences and what that has created. Some of those proposed variations, as provided with the preliminary development plan, many of them carry over from the originally approved plan. There are a few variations from what was approved, including the setback requirements that I have circled there, the front, side, and rear building line setbacks. The code would require, let me get there real quick. The code would require for a front yard setback to be 30 feet. The applicant has proposed a 20-foot building line. The side yard setback is required in the code is 7 feet. As shown here, because of those lots being created, there's essentially a 0 setback between the two units as the building is attached, and the lot line goes essentially along the party wall in between each individual unit, and this is consistent throughout the entire development concept. They've also requested a minor variation from the 7-foot side yard setback to 6 feet. And then the rear yard setbacks require a 25 minimum distance The applicant has generally met that. There are a few exceptions. Building A is shown here. The distance is actually gonna be a little less than 15 feet. It'll be around 12 feet from the property line. They've shown 26 feet, and that's to the next building. So 26 feet of separation from building to building. These types of variations are common with the preliminary development concept and are brought to you for approval as they have shown. Staff feels that the proposed variations are very much in harmony with what has already been developed out there. Many of the buildings are already on the ground, look very similar to this as far as footprints, setbacks, all of the regulations that kind of orient the building in general is very consistent with that. Staff recommends the Planning Commission approve the revised preliminary development plan for the Waverly Point subdivision with no conditions at this time. The preliminary development plan is fairly conceptual at this phase of the process. They will be required to bring through a final development plan that will include landscaping, elevations, the actual buildings themselves. At this point, it's more of a conceptual layout that we've brought forward to ask for your consideration.
Thanks, Travis. Do we have the applicant this evening, the presentation, or anything to share?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Judd Clausen with Phelps Engineering. We're at 1270 North Winchester, Olathe, Kansas. Civil engineer, land surveyor for the project. With me tonight is Ken, Lisa Roba, owners of the property, Waverly 175. I'll just keep my remarks brief. Travis did a great job just kind of going through all the technical type of things, and that's really what I just want to leave you with. This is I think probably the 8th or 9th plat eventually that we're going to do. We've done several other plats out here, and this is really kind of to clean up some technical type things. If you compare the two plans, the approved plan has 34 units. This plan has 32, and some of that was due to curving up the road a little bit to provide the additional right-of-way and cleaning up some things. We provided some additional ranch units, which are 2-car garages, and just add a little bit of variation to the project. And we think it's overall a much better project. So with that, I'll close, answer any questions, and ask for your approval tonight.
Thank you. Any questions for staff or the applicant from the commissioners?
Is the right-of-way issue the main reason for the changes?
No, that came up during the process. The main issue for the changes was really just going back through the code. We had came in actually with a final plat application because, again, this is about the 8th project, and that's when it was discovered that there were some setback variations and things like that that weren't necessarily clear with the original application, and just really kind of cleaning that up and documenting that. And then during this process, engineering staff had made us aware of the study that had been done a few years back about 175th Street and 56 Highway, and that this is intended to be a much more significant road in the future than it was back in 2005 when we did our original application in 2007 when we had the revised plan. So things have changed in that period of time, and so we've accommodated that with our plan.
Questions from the commissioners? Before we open the public hearing. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll now open the public hearing. If anyone would like to comment on this item, please come forward and state your name and address for the public record. Individuals will be allotted about 3 minutes, or an individual representing a group is allotted 7 minutes. No one? A motion to close the public hearing made by Lavella with a second by Barber. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Public hearing is now closed. Does additional comments from the Planning Commission or additional discussion? Is there any question, comment that either staff or the applicant can answer? don't have anything from staff to add. I would entertain a motion for this item.
I move that we approve the revised preliminary development plan.
Second.
We have a motion made by Lavella with a second by Limer to approve the revised preliminary development plan for the Waverly Point subdivision. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. New business item number 2. Consider a request to extend the approval of ST-12-06 for 1 year for First Light Church on property located at the northwest corner of West Santa Fe Street and North Poplar Street, requested by Ryan Learn on behalf of the Building Committee of First Light United Methodist Church. Michelle.
Good evening, Commissioners. Michelle Leininger, Planning Manager, or Principal Planner, your title. The item before you is an extension of a site plan approved in 2013, and this is property that is just a skip over to the east from the property that you just looked at. In March 2013, the Planning Commission approved the site plan and plat for this property. The site plan is valid for 2 years, and the applicant is asking for a 1-year extension, which the code permits the Planning Commission to approve if they see fit. Outlined in your staff report are the conditions of the approval of that original approval. Those will stand. Staff is not recommending any of those change at this point in time. Those are items that would be more or less ticked off one by one throughout the process. They actually have rezoned the property. They're working on the plat at this point in time. And some of those other things are more items that will happen as part of the development of the property. Staff does recommend approval of a 1-year extension of the site plan ST-12-06 for First Light Church.
Thank you. We have the applicant here with us this evening. Anything to add?
Hello, my name is Brad Wheeler. I am the pastor of First Light. You need my address, is that correct, and everything, is that or not? Okay, I'll give it to you if you need it, if you don't need it. Okay, some of you are saying yes, some of you are saying no. So tonight I come to you with this request. First Light is getting very close to being ready to get our first phase building off the ground. The reason for the request at this time, we are right in the middle of a transition in getting us ready to make the final push to get our building off the ground. 3 years ago, before we had even acquired this land, we began a capital campaign to start raising money towards a future building. And so you can imagine trying to raise money without having the vision of where everything is going to be, how that would go. The capital campaign that we started 3 years ago began without ever even having land or that kind of thing, and it is a 3-year capital campaign that ends this year in July. The goal for us would be to finish the first capital campaign very strong, to turn around then this fall to do a second capital campaign, with which then by the end of the year we could go to banks, and the thing that they're going to look at is a couple of things. They're going to look at the money that we have to put down, the money that we have pledged in helping us figure out how much we can get for a loan and that sort of thing. And so this year is a very critical year for us to helping us get the building off the ground next year. Our hope is that pretty quickly here we can begin working on a date to break ground, right at the beginning of next year, something like that. And with that momentum and people knowing that, the second capital campaign will go even better than the first campaign, and we'll have everything we need to get the first phase building off the ground. So thank you for hearing our request tonight. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. questions from the commissioners for staff or the applicant? Seems pretty straightforward, but any questions? If we don't have any, I'd entertain a motion on this item.
I move that we approve a one-year extension of site plan SP 1206 for First Light Church.
I'll second.
We have a motion made by Limer with a second by Kimsey to approve a one-year extension of the approval of site plan SP 1206 for First Light Church. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with all in favor. Other business item number 1, Land Development Code Rewrite Update.
Just want to give you an update, where we are in the process, kind of a little bit repetitive from the email that went out. We have, signed a contract with Gould Evans as the consulting firm that is going to assist us with this process. We are moving forward with, outlining a work plan and a, public engagement strategy to go with it. As you know, I had sent out an email asking for volunteers, 2 volunteers to be on our advisory committee, and Commissioner Austin, Commissioner Lamer, have volunteered to be on the committee, and, advisory committee is what we're calling it. We do have a technical committee and an advisory committee. The advisory committee is a group of non-staff that will help kind of steer the technical committee, which is staff, with drafting the document. Last year, the city completed the process with the comprehensive plan, and that's really the foundation document to guide what this process is and what the outcome is. And so that advisory committee will help us further steer what our new zoning and subdivision regulations will look like. We're really looking forward to working with Gould Evans and both committees, and we're hoping to have the first committee meeting within the first 2 weeks of March. So we're gonna get started, and looking forward to moving forward. And Commission will get periodic updates from both me and our volunteers, and just to keep you in the loop. The approval process for the code, the first step, once it is out of staff and the committees, will be for the Planning Commission. So you will get to take action on that document. We'll probably do something similar for what we did with the comprehensive plan, and want to do almost like a study session, or either do a 2-part kind of approval where we'll discuss the document and then do the public hearing and all of that, because it's a lot of technical things to swallow. So, and then the Planning Commission will form a recommendation, and then it will go to the so you'll see that. It's going to be a good time. We're looking at 14 to 16 months, so we're hoping for a great outcome, because in order to start this process of being more of a business-friendly community and trying to foster economic development, start with our foundational document, and then we're going to go on from there. So, any questions, let me know, and good luck to you.
Yeah.
When is
Val.
the, I have a question, when is the earliest that we're gonna have to take action on this, what do you think? What do we have to look for?
You're looking at next spring.
Okay, plenty of time, okay.
Yeah, we'll have a public open house meeting in, of course, we didn't bring it, April, end of April. So we'll let you let everybody know about that, and, it's a technical document, so it'll be it's not the vision document, it's the implementation.
Good luck,
Not having any other items on the agenda, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion made to adjourn by Barber with a second by Lavella. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
Good times. Yeah. Yeah, that was. Yeah, Teresa called me like.
Hi, did you come to see what they're like? They're a little different from the board. So, yeah, they are. You meet more often. They're probably gonna like.
All right, see you guys. Yeah.
Night, Ryan. Yeah, I mean, they're gonna wanna know why it's gonna be okay. And they're gonna wanna know what it's gonna look, they're used to seeing elevation pictures. What